People often associate Ellen DeGeneres with being one of the nicest people in the world. I mean, her show is all about positivity and like dancing and being kind. So it definitely came as a surprise when a viral Twitter thread labeled her one of the meanest people in the world and featured encounters from people who have met her in real life. Friends, the tea is hot today. What's Gucci, what's gravy? Welcome back to InformOverload. I'm Charlotte Dobre, reporting to you from the comfort of my home studio. Subscribe for trending news updates that are actually entertaining, top 10 lists that cure your boredom, and jokes that Ellen would probably say are cringy, and that is saying a lot. And if you don't already, you should follow the IO team on social media so we can connect outside of YouTube during this time of social distancing. I think we could all use a little more connection in our lives. Alright, so just for a bit of background, people are out here coming for Ellen on social media. Of course, the average person doesn't really ever get close to Ellen to experience this kind of behavior. The Ellen you see on The Ellen Show is the Ellen that most people are familiar with. There are rumors, however, that Ellen is actually quite mean in real life. Comedian Kevin T. Porter recently tweeted, "Right now, we all need a little kindness. You know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Respond to this with the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match everyone with $2 to the LA Food Bank." I mean, that's one way to raise money for charity. There were over 1,000 replies to this Twitter thread, and well, if the stories are true, then Ellen isn't as nice as she seems. Just letting you guys know to take all these stories with a grain of salt. The stories haven't been verified, but that doesn't make them any less entertaining. Alright, let's start things off with chipped nail polish. I worked at Real Food Daily, served her and Portia at brunch. She wrote a letter to the owner and complained about my chipped nail polish. Not that it was on her plate, but just that it was on my hand. I had worked till closing the night before, and this was the next morning. Almost got me fired. Chris Fair is actually a comedian, and she did a stand-up set about this experience back in 2014. The video is called Ellen is a Monster, and she talks about it fully. Roll it!
Until I was released after a really popular talk show host emailed the owner and complained about my chipped nail polish. True story. Not in her food, but on my hands.
I'm actually surprised that any boss would consider firing an employee over chipped nail polish. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ellen's not okay with it, so we need to fire you. Like, who cares? Unless that chipped nail polish is getting in my food, what does it matter what your manicure looks like? Alright, next up we got the sensitive nose. She has a sensitive nose, so everyone must chew gum from a bowl outside of her office before talking to her, and if she thinks you smell that day, you have to go home and shower. So wait, when you're rich and famous, you can banish smelly people from your presence? Sign me up. When you're famous, you don't have to worry about social decorum. After working for Ellen for over 5 years, a close friend left to have a baby and found a different job on a union network show, benefits, etc. Ellen begged her to return, then fired her after 1 week. No reason given, and my friend struggled for a long time with a new baby and no benefits, etc. Yeah, that one's mean. That's a little bit mean. Alright, next, peasants. Seems that Ellen doesn't really like to talk to the little people. And what I mean by little people is the crew, people working behind the scenes, or maybe she just doesn't like very many people at all. Here's a tweet. Whoo boy, I have a few. A friend of mine told me about a custodian she knew who was fired because he was slightly autistic and forgot he wasn't allowed to look at or speak to her, and he loved greeting everyone. Another friend of mine was a PA on her show, and when Russell Brand came into the employee break area to chat with the crew and hang out, Ellen came in and got mad at him, saying he didn't have to interact with these people. That's why guests have their own area backstage. And lastly, another friend of mine worked on Arrested Development Season 4, and they said they were having to find workarounds for any scenes with Portia in them because Ellen wouldn't let her go to work most days. But wait! There's more. Next, my sister worked for The Ellen Show for 2 years. This is from her. I saw Ellen in the hallways every day and would say hello, and she never once said hello back. She wouldn't smile. She wouldn't even acknowledge me at all for 2 seasons. Next, we got extreme vegan. So Ellen is a vegan and an animal lover, and pretty much everybody knows that by now. There's really nothing wrong with being a vegan or an animal lover. But Ellen is about as extreme of a vegan as vegans come. She doesn't want to be anywhere around meat, and she doesn't want anyone else to be around meat. At all. That means that if you're working on her set or a set even nearby, she'll come by and demand that you don't eat meat products. Allegedly. Here's a tweet. Was working on a show at WB that was next to her stage. Was our showrunner's 50th birthday. Caterer grilling steaks outside for special fancy lunch. Ellen sent someone over to demand they stop as she doesn't eat meat. She's the worst. This person added, I have another one. She polices her crew's lunch orders. Nobody's allowed to eat fish, etc. They would come hide on our stage to eat what they wanted, away from her. Oh my god. Imagine having that much power that you could literally just like demand that everyone at WB Studios not eat meat. Apparently, Ellen's values extend to humans who have no other choice but to eat meat. She shamed my entire culture for our staple food source, seal meat. We are Inuit and live in the Arctic where barely any edible plants grow. I mean, what does she want them to do, starve? Just freeze your vegetables. You have snow, right? Alright, lastly, this was back in the day. She was sporting her Carson era mullet. We were in gym and doing crunches as we would commonly do to start the class. Ellen ripped a loud fart and tried to blame it on me. Since when does that mean? I just call that smart. Sheer intelligence. Oh, it wasn't me, it was you. So I always like to approach stories like this with a certain degree of skepticism, but I actually came across an interview with NikkieTutorials where she talks about her experience on the Ellen show. When NikkieTutorials did her coming out video, there were a ton of news outlets that wanted to talk to her. Out of everyone, she chose to speak to Ellen. But when she was interviewed on Dutch television about the experience, this is what she had to say.
Hoe was het bij Ellen DeGeneres?
Nou, moet ik zeggen dat er een groot verschil is tussen De Wereld Draait Door en Ellen.
I don't know why, but I feel like NikkieTutorials saying that just sort of kind of confirms a lot of these stories are true. The cat's officially out of the bag. Ellen might be mean. After a Twitter thread went viral where comedian Kevin T. Porter called her one of the meanest people in the world and asked people to reply to the thread with stories about Ellen being mean, people are looking at Ellen DeGeneres in a whole new light. Not only did this tweet have hundreds of replies, there are even examples of Ellen being mean on camera as a part of her show. And let's not forget the feuds that she has going back maybe even decades. The fact is, there are celebrities who've been trying to warn us about Ellen for years. And I guess people are actually listening now. Welcome back to InformOverload, your one-stop shop for trending news updates, tea spilling, and obviously very cringy dad jokes. I'm Charlotte Jobre, resident talker, potato queen, and very serious journalist. Subscribe for a different take on the news, turn on the bell so you're the first to know what's trending, and follow us on social media so we can connect outside of YouTube. Alright, starting things off with NikkieTutorials. Most of you probably know by now that Nikki DeGeneres appeared on Ellen right after she did her coming out video. But although she said that it was an honor to be on the Ellen show, that's like a mom I made it kind of moment. I was on Ellen. Nikki admitted in a Dutch television interview in February that the experience wasn't what she thought it would be. Sebastian Williams found that clip and translated it. Roll it.
Het is wel heel leuk dat jij wel vooraf hallo kunt zeggen en zo. Het is bij Ellen in ieder geval, wat ik heb meegemaakt hier en andere landen, is dat gewoon een hele andere wereld. Het zit gewoon iets anders.
Afstandelijke killer.
Tikje.
I mean, her expression was like, she wanted to say it, but she couldn't say it. I'm actually surprised that she did say what she said. Coming for Ellen, Nikki! Alright, next we have Dakota Johnson. When Dakota appeared on the Ellen show, the interview definitely got people talking, for all the wrong reasons. Not only was this interview extremely awkward, Dakota Johnson essentially clapped back at Ellen and called her out for, I guess, making her a little bit uncomfortable. Essentially, Dakota Johnson wasn't gonna let Ellen walk all over her for a quick joke. Roll the clip.
How was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited.
Is it just me or is there some subtext going on there? It turns out that Dakota was actually right. She did invite Ellen to her birthday, but Ellen was out of town that weekend. It was the same weekend that Ellen was photographed at a Dallas Cowboys football game next to George W. Bush. More on that later. Oh, the tea! I got the tea! Next up, we have Mariah Carey. In a 2008 interview on The Ellen Show, Ellen tried to force Mariah Carey to drink alcohol to prove she wasn't pregnant.
People are saying that you're pregnant. There's rumors.
Don't discuss that.
All right, well, you don't have to answer.
That's okay. No, honestly,
you don't have to answer. Let's just toast with champagne and decide.
They've been saying that since
Now, okay, listen, that sounds a lot worse than it is. At the time, it just sort of seemed like it was all in good fun. But while this little segment might have been lighthearted, as Ellen would put it, there is a reason why women don't like to discuss their pregnancies in the first trimester. Miscarriages. Getting excited about a pregnancy and going public with it when you're not sure if it's a for sure thing or not, it can be heartbreaking. And unfortunately for Mariah Carey, she did have a miscarriage just a few weeks after doing this interview. It wasn't due to the small sip of alcohol that she had, but there might have been a reason why she didn't want to discuss it. Next up, we have Susan Sarandon. There were a lot of people who were upset when they found out that Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush are friends. or at least friendly. When Ellen and George W. Bush were photographed together in 2019 while watching a football game, a ton of stars came out with criticism on social media. One of those stars is Susan Sarandon.
Here's the thing, I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different.
Ellen defended her relationship with the former president in her talk show. She said, "I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have." She also urged people to practice kindness, like she always does. This didn't go over well on social media. Here's a tweet. Ellen's whole thing about treating everyone with kindness only applies to people in her specific tax bracket, based on the open secret stories everyone hears about how she treats her staff. Susan Sarandon also responded to Ellen's explanation by tweeting an article by Out magazine called "Ellen is friends with Bush, but he was no friend to LGBTQ+ people." She added, "But missing the point entirely, DeGeneres framed this issue as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with different opinions, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal." Next up, we have Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner was banned from The Ellen Show after the release of her 2017 memoir, The Secrets of My Life. In the memoir, she said that Ellen alienated her from the LGBTQ community because of her thoughts on gay marriage. Caitlyn said, "I have to admit at the time that I remember, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was that the whole gay marriage issue came up, I was not for it. I'm a traditionalist. I mean, I'm older than most people in the audience. I like tradition, and it's always been between a man and a woman, and I'm thinking, I don't quite get it." Comedian Sherri Shepherd has also been banned from The Ellen Show for similar beliefs. While I'm not going to get into whether or not those beliefs are wrong, it is interesting that Ellen chooses to defend her friendship with people like George W. Bush for having different beliefs, yet not people like Caitlyn Jenner or Sherri Shepherd. Shouldn't that stance apply to all people who she disagrees with, not just the ones that are convenient to her? I'm just saying. And of course, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin versus Ellen is a bitter Hollywood feud we have all known about for years. But unlike Kathy, Ellen is well liked. Until now. I mean, especially after Kathy's whole Trump head thing, that was a little bit hard to stomach, I'm not gonna lie. So people were mostly on Ellen's side until now. In 2016, Kathy included a little jab at Ellen in her book about a, quote, daytime talk show host with short blonde hair. Kathy said that this person had a mean streak that all of Hollywood was aware of. Kathy Griffin has also been banned from The Ellen Show, and their feud started with a conversation about Joan Rivers. Kathy said, I quote, "One of the things that really hurt Joan, and we talked about it at our last meal together, was that Ellen always shunned her, and Ellen thought she was vulgar and not funny. I just called her and said, look, woman to woman, comic to comic, I think you need to let go of your hatred for Joan Rivers. She passed away. Do a f***ing tribute. Be cool." To which Ellen reportedly responded, "There's a difference between mean and funny." Well, you would know, Ellen, wouldn't ya? Oh, I said it. I said it! According to Kathy Griffin, Joan Rivers didn't have a mean bone in her body. I personally love Joan Rivers' comedy. She's a legend, and I draw a lot of inspiration for my comedy from her. Comedy to me is about the unexpected. Joan Rivers paved the way for female comedians to be unapologetically themselves, rather than be stifled by what society deems as ladylike. For the record, Ellen did end up paying tribute to Joan Rivers on her show. Well guys, there you have it. I would just like to finish off this video not by defending Ellen, but just by saying that people are complex. Someone who appears extremely nice on TV might actually have a mean streak, and someone who appears really mean on TV might actually have a very soft side. We also can't forget all the good that Ellen has done for the world. She's human just like everyone else. We can all be mean in certain situations. And what she preaches is still important. You should always be kind to people. Not just when the cameras are rolling, huh? Huh? Yeah. There are a lot of rumors circulating around Ellen DeGeneres' marriage to Portia de Rossi. Rumors that Ellen is controlling and mean to her wife. A lot of these rumors are just fueled by tabloid gossip, but is there any truth to them? Well, I'm gonna tell you in just a second, but first let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Charlotte. This is InformOverload. We do the news, we keep it fresh and entertaining. Subscribe for a different take on the news and follow us on social media so we can connect outside of YouTube. So by now, most of us I think know about the viral Twitter thread that exposed Ellen DeGeneres as supposedly one of the meanest people alive. If you haven't seen that video, I will leave a link at the top of the screen for you. In that Twitter thread, there were a lot of people spreading rumors about how mean Ellen is to her wife, Portia. Here's a couple of tweets. A friend went to the same frou-frou gym as Ellen and Portia for a few months and said Ellen was an absolutely ridiculous, entitled, spoiled horror show who treated her staff like shit and constantly yelled at Portia during every workout. Another friend of mine worked on Arrested Development season 4, and they said they were having to find workarounds for any scenes with Portia in them because Ellen wouldn't let her go to work most days. Oh god, imagine hiring Portia to be in your film. or TV show. Can we check with Ellen to see if we can shoot on this day? Next, I'm convinced the reason why Portia doesn't act anymore is because Ellen doesn't want her to get more famous than she is. Also, Portia is 15 years younger than Ellen, and I think she's jealous of that. And lastly, came on this thread to tell my story of 10 plus years ago being told by someone who had done hair or makeup in Ellen's vicinity that everybody knows Portia wants to leave, but when she tries, Ellen just buys her another pony. I mean, ponies are nice. I just wanted to share another tweet that seems to shut down the claim. We have known Portia and Ellen for years. Want a story? She moved mountains so my husband Kobe Brown Music could perform on her show before his cancer treatment. Why don't we flip this thing around and reply with a moment of joy you felt because Ellen is in this world, #be kind. So I was kind of intrigued by this and I decided to do a little bit of digging into whether or not these rumors could be true. Because if there's one person who understands Ellen and sees Ellen at her best and her worst, it's Ellen's wife, Portia. Here is a timeline of their marriage. Ellen and Portia met 20 years ago in the year 2000. Portia told Oprah in 2005 that it was love at first sight. Portia wasn't openly gay at the time and it took her 3 years to tell Ellen how she felt. They met again in 2004 backstage at the VH1 Big in 04 Awards. In 2005, Portia came out of the closet in an interview with The Advocate, saying, "It's the first time that I've known in every cell of my being that I'm with somebody for the rest of my life." In 2008, they got engaged and married, and this was right around the time the Supreme Court decided that the ban on gay marriage was unlawful. Portia legally changed her last name to DeGeneres 2 years into the marriage, but still uses the last name DeRossi for career purposes. Then divorce rumors started floating around in 2013. Rumors that Ellen squashed in a monologue on her show. Portia then spent time in rehab in 2014 for substance abuse, which fueled the rumors even more. In 2018, Portia gave Ellen an amazing birthday gift where she revealed she was building a gorilla sanctuary in Rwanda to honor Ellen and her hero, philanthropist and primatologist Diane Fossey. Then in May of 2018, Portia announced that she had quit acting in order to start a business. Portia and Ellen claimed that neither of them wanted children because it's hard to have parents in the entertainment industry. There's a rumor around this claim that Portia did want children and Ellen didn't, but anyways, that's the rumor. Based on official sources, Ellen and Portia have a very happy marriage. They also seem to be very happy together on social media. But if things weren't as great as they seem on the facade, I highly doubt that Portia would ever talk about it publicly. She's married to one of the most powerful and one of the richest women in the world. Anytime there's ever a rumor about their marriage being on the rocks, Ellen's people shut it down. She's got an image to maintain, right? That's why this thing about Ellen being mean is just such a shock to people, because this is so far from Ellen's image of who she is that she broadcasts to the world. Some people would like to argue, well, if they were unhappy, why don't they just divorce? Well, it's not that simple. Ellen is worth close to $500 million, which means there is incentive to stay together. There's no official word on whether or not they had a prenup or a postnup, but when they were first married, they were on the same level playing field, as in they both brought an equal amount of money to the relationship. Whereas now, Ellen is definitely the breadwinner, especially since Portia gave up acting.
So now that Ellen is being called out for being mean all over social media, we thought we'd take a deeper dive into how she treats animals, because she's a very vocal advocate for animals. And I want to see if there's a potential she could be two-faced about her love for animals, as she is now being accused of being two-faced to the public for years. Hey, what's up guys, it's Mackenzie here, and today on the channel I'm going to be filling you in on Ellen's controversial past with animals. But before I get into it, subscribe down below if you want to see more videos spilling tea about celebrities and influencers like this, as that's pretty much what we specialize in on the channel. So if you look up Ellen and animals, the main scandal that she had happened back in 2007. When Ellen and her wife Portia decided they wanted to adopt a dog. So they got involved with an agency called Mutts and Moms, who led them to 2 dogs that they picked up from Pasadena. But unfortunately, when they brought the dogs home, neither of them got along with the cats the couple already owned. So they decided to return one of the dogs and give the other one of the dogs, named Iggy, to the family of Ellen's hairstylist, Cheryl Marks. And the problem here is that in the fine print of the adoption contract that she signed, Ellen was not allowed to give the adopted dogs away to anyone else without the agency's permission. So that's when things got a little nasty, as the agency Mutts and Moms removed Iggy from the Marks' household, as they did not meet their adoption standard, which was particularly devastating to the family's daughters who had bonded with Iggy. So the scandal intensified when Ellen decided to get on her show to address the situation, and she tearfully begged for the shelter to give the dogs back to the family, as well as taking the full blame for this getting out of hand. But then, since the world had seen how upset this made Ellen, Mutts and Moms was inundated with angry responses, including a few death threats. But the agency's owner took to TV herself, where she stated that she had no intention of reversing her company's policy because of the bullying power of a television personality. And she also stated that the dog Iggy had already been given away to another home. PETA even made an official statement about the whole thing. In summary, saying that they appreciate that Ellen chose to adopt and they know she was trying to do the right thing, but she did a misstep in not contacting the agency. And PETA said they agreed with Mutts and Mom's policy of not allowing people to give the pets away. So here Ellen was not trying to be harmful to the pet, she was just doing what she thought was right and overstepped a boundary by the agency. But I will say it's unfortunate that she took it to TV and got her huge audience against the agency in the process. But now let's move on to something that's a little more controversial, and that's to the animal rights activists that have called Ellen a hypocrite because she's backed companies accused of animal cruelty, even though she's an outspoken animal activist. And Ellen was even vegan until 2018, even though she's still mostly plant-based but has added eggs and fish into her diet. After 8 years of being vegan, Ellen got steady backlash for being a CoverGirl spokesperson from 2008 to about 2014, although I couldn't find a hard date as to when she officially cut ties with them. When she frequently talked about being against animal cruelty and animal testing on her show, but promoted CoverGirl, who does test on animals. CoverGirl's official statement on the matter from back when Ellen was a spokesperson was, quote, "We do not test our products or ingredients on animals anywhere in the world unless required by law. We are working hard to make it obsolete. Therefore, we've developed over 50 alternative non-animal testing methods and have invested more than $380 million in finding alternatives and getting them accepted by regulators around the world." So essentially they're saying that they are trying to make animal testing obsolete, but didn't put any firm dates on when they would be doing it. But to give an update on that, in 2018 the company pulled out of China, so they are now officially cruelty-free. Another incident that got her in some heat was when she launched a shoe line in 2015 and her ED by Ellen luxury lifestyle label through a partnership with Komodo Group. But this line included leather, which we all know is not vegan or cruelty-free. This got so much backlash, it even prompted a petition that asked for Ellen to stop selling animal parts, with the petition getting over 50,000 signatures before it was closed. One group upset with Ellen was the Global Conservation Group, who released a letter citing their disappointment. This letter stated in part how animals in the leather industry are treated much worse than those in the farm industry, saying it's not uncommon for animals used for leather to be skinned alive while fully conscious, the letter reads. The group even posted a petition entitled "Dear Ellen, cut leather from your new shoe line." And then the last hit to her rep as an animal lover was when, as I mentioned earlier, she decided in 2018 that she was no longer going to be vegan, which shocked and upset a lot of her fans as she's a huge advocate for animals. And going back to eating animal products goes against a lot of the values that she preached to her massive audience in the past. But to finish off the video, I did want to say that I personally don't think Ellen treats her pets badly, as she adopts tons of pets and often donates to animal protection and animal rights groups. She even has an animal fund called the Ellen Fund that she founded in 2018 with her wife, and the fund helps protect endangered species. And Ellen was inspired to get involved because she wanted to follow in the footsteps of her hero, Dian Fossey, who is known for her research into gorillas. But I did want to say I do think it's a little suspicious that she claims to be an advocate for animals, but she supported CoverGirl. So that's all on this from me.
One thing that I've learned from being in quarantine is that people, this is like being in jail, is what it is. It's mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone in here is gay.
Ellen is being dragged on social media for saying that being forced to quarantine in her gigantic mansion is like living in jail. Well, no, Ellen, it's not like living in jail. It's like living in a huge mansion. Welcome back to InformOverload. We tell you about what's trending on the internet. I'm Charlotte Dobre. Subscribe for a different take on the news and follow us on social media so we can connect outside of YouTube. Since Ellen was exposed on Twitter for being kinda mean, her pristine reputation is now under a microscope. And it now seems that mostly everything she says is gonna get backlash. Wanna know how I know? Because she said that being in quarantine is like being in jail. And people were not happy about it. No, they weren't. It was a merciless drag. And considering the fact that Ellen is confined to a huge California mansion, I would not equate living in a tiny jail cell to living in Ellen's mansion. I'm pretty sure there's a hefty amount of inmates who would love to switch places with Ellen. Like pretty much everyone else right now, Ellen is confined to her home. She's even doing the Ellen show temporarily from her house. But Ellen's home is literally like a resort. Have you even seen Ellen's mansion? Oh, I'm sorry. It's not just her one mansion. It's the other mansion. So she's got two mansions. This one is a $27 million mansion that was once featured in Architectural Digest. Floor to ceiling windows, beautiful plants and greenery, and she looks off a cliff, man, a cliff. She's got a cliff. Oh yeah, and she has an infinity pool. Maybe it's one of those things that's like, as soon as you have an infinity pool, you don't use the infinity pool. Anyway, long story short, people didn't think the joke was very funny, especially considering the lack of a live audience is quite noticeable. Crickets. Or maybe people just aren't really finding Ellen funny these days. Here were some reactions to Ellen's joke on social media. Ellen, you quarantining in your mansion in designer sweats is nothing like prison. Did she run this joke by literally anyone? Probably not. Or maybe, I don't know. Yes, it's very much like jail, except for the part where you still have your multi-million-dollar home and your voting rights. Hey, hey. To add insult to injury, this joke wasn't like best timing to joke about being in jail. Inmates are at an increased risk and they have nowhere to run. And yeah, the joke about being like gay in prison, you know, like people get raped in prison. It's not funny to joke about being gay in prison, ever. I don't know why I'm whispering. Here's a tweet. Can we all just agree that jokes about jail/prison are just bad? Putting humans in cages is not funny. Things that happen there are not funny. And anything you're going through right now in your apartment or your mansion, Ellen, is not comparable. Now listen, Ellen was probably just trying to be relatable. For many of us and many of you, being confined to your home is much like being under house arrest. But when celebrities like try to be like relatable and like give us like hope in this situation, I just find that like it's falling flat. Except for some good news. Some good news, I discovered it last night. Oh my god. Best on YouTube. But I'm talking about like when Gal Gadot got all her like celebrity friends together and they all sang like a lyric from Imagine. That was... At first I liked it, and then as it went on I was like, what? Like they're all just sitting in their gorgeous mansions and living life and... Anyways, last week Ellen DeGeneres faced major backlash after she made a joke where she compared being quarantined in her gigantic mansion to being in prison. Well, it seems that after she got a ton of backlash, Ellen quietly deleted that part of the segment. This is the first time she's responded in any way to the criticism that she's facing online. What is gravy? I'm Charlotte. You guys are watching InformOverload. We do the news, so if you need a place to get your news and you're kind of like sick of CNN or whatever, you should subscribe. Because I like you. Oh yeah, and we also have social media, so definitely check us out on there if you haven't already. Okay, so you guys remember about that joke that Ellen made last week? If you don't know already, roll.
One thing that I've learned from being in quarantine is that people, this is like being in jail, is what it is. It's mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone in here is gay.
Now, I just want to clarify that I do get the joke that Ellen was trying to make. For the average person, being confined to your small apartment or condo or room is very much like being in prison, or at the very least under house arrest. But being confined to a $27 million mansion with an infinity pool and a cliff and a beautiful backyard, yeah, that's not like being in prison. That's like being at a resort. The joke about being gay in prison, because everybody's gay, and yeah, it didn't land well, especially at a time like this. The R word for obvious reasons. Basically, it would really suck to be in prison right now. Like, it sucks anyway to be in prison. Yes, those people are incarcerated probably because they did something wrong, but they're still human beings and they don't have access to the healthcare that we have access to. They don't have access to basic essentials. Right now, incarcerated people are at higher risk of infection. Here's a tweet. Disappointed about the Ellen Show for joking about being in jail while she sits in her multi-million-dollar mansion with access to anything she wants. Many of us are struggling to get essentials and are exposed on the front lines, but please continue exercising your privilege. Long story short, the joke didn't go over well with fans. That's also probably due to the recent Twitter firestorm where Ellen was kind of exposed for being like less than kind. Ellen had yet to respond to the backlash, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ellen hadn't heard about it yet. Usually most of the news stories that you see are about Ellen sharing positive messages or donating to charity. She hasn't apologized for the joke, but instead she deleted it from the segment entirely. She also removed it from social media. The video was listed as unavailable on YouTube as of Wednesday afternoon. In the new edit of the video, you can clearly see where she made the cut. She's talking about discovering that her wife Portia is Australian while in quarantine. Then it quickly cuts to her talking about how she feels bad for college students. Although Ellen is doing her best to keep her show running from home and send out messages of positivity, many people were pointing out after this backlash that there's a lot more that Ellen could do to help. Rather than being confined to her gigantic mansion, maybe she could volunteer at a grocery store or a food bank. As of April 11th, it seems that maybe she is taking that criticism to heart. She and Portia were spotted on Saturday unloading boxes at a fire department in Santa Barbara after revealing that Portia de Rossi's art company, General Public, will be making face shields for medical workers. So it is nice to know that they are doing something to help. It sucks that Ellen had to make that joke, but I mean, we're all doing our best right now, and I'm sure that she probably thought that she was gonna make people laugh, even though she sounded very privileged. NikkieTutorials has revealed more details about her experience on The Ellen Show in an interview that was published on April 14th. And apparently, NikkieTutorials didn't have a place to go to the bathroom, even though other mainstream celebrities had their own private bathroom. But she is hot today, my friends. What is gravy, y'all? It is tea time on InformOverload. I'm Charlotte Del Rey. Subscribe for trending news updates that are actually interesting, and check out the description of this video for all the links to our socials. Let's be social. Right. Let's get to the tea, shall we? We all know by now that NikkieTutorials had a less than exemplary experience on The Ellen Show. If you didn't know that, I will leave a link at the top of the screen for you so that you can get up to speed. But in a new interview with ANSI magazine, NikkieTutorials reveals more about her experience on The Ellen Show. So much more. Nikkie is coming for Ellen, y'all. The first quote, translated from Dutch. Maybe I'm being naive, but I expected them to welcome me with confetti. Welcome to the Ellen DeGeneres show. But instead I got greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked, she recalled. I expected a Disney show, but I got a Teletubbies After Dark. That kind of seems consistent with a lot of the former employees' accounts posted to Twitter. I will get to more tea about Ellen's employees later in the video. Next quote. Every guest at Ellen had a private toilet, but I didn't. I couldn't even use the closest toilet to me because it was reserved for the Jonas Brothers. They were allowed, but I wasn't, I thought. Even though looking back, my interview got 8 million views, while theirs only got 2 million. I feel like that quote kind of backs up the claim that Ellen is only nice to people like in her tax bracket or like mainstream celebrities, people on her playing field. I know that being a YouTube celebrity is different from being like a mainstream celebrity, but like it's really not. YouTube celebrities have way more influence and they connect with their audiences on a daily basis. NikkieTutorials should be considered a mainstream celebrity, and something tells me she is kind of up there in that tax bracket with Ellen. Maybe not $450 million worth, but she probably makes as much as a Jonas Brother, or more. Ellen has yet to respond to Nikkie's comments against her. It seems that the internet is turning against Ellen DeGeneres. A petition has been started to replace Ellen DeGeneres with Ellen Page on The Ellen Show. And the crew for The Ellen Show, already rumored to be overworked, have revealed that they are furious over the lack of communication and pay cuts since the pandemic began. What, so it's either I'm overworked or I'm not worked at all? According to Variety, the crew is outraged by how they are being treated by top producers of The Ellen Show. The core stage crew for The Ellen DeGeneres Show, amounting to 30 employees, got no written communication about the status of their working hours, pay, and they didn't receive any inquiries about their mental or physical health from producers for over a month. That is according to 2 sources that spoke to Variety on condition of anonymity. When employees reached out to their bosses, they wouldn't answer the phone, and when they did answer the phone, they would reveal very little. They also had no information on how much they would be paid for over 2 weeks. To make matters worse, in order to film the at-home version of The Ellen Show, instead of using the crew from the show, a different non-union tech company was hired to help Ellen tape remotely from her jail. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant mansion, not jail. There are only 4 crew members of The Ellen Show working on the remote version of the show, and many of Ellen's employees had no idea that there was a remote version being filmed, and they found out through social media posts. It is kind of crappy for employers to leave their employees in the dark right now. It's like, am I fired? Am I not fired? Like, just tell me. Give me my severance and tell me, and I'll just go find another job. A spokesperson for Warner Brothers said this in a statement to Variety. Our executive producers and telepictures are committed to taking care of our staff and crew and have made decisions first and foremost with them in mind. The Stu reiterated that the crew has been paid, but at reduced hours. As of April 10th, the crew is being told that they should expect a reduced compensation of 2 8-hour work days per week. After the Variety article came out, the crew was told that they would be getting their full 4-day work week back. But a source close to Warner Brothers has said that the final number hasn't been decided on yet. Yes, people in the film industry are not frontline workers, but it might be weeks or months until they're able to get on set again, which means that we're all gonna be stuck watching reruns at home. Oh God, isolation first world problem.
Well, it seems the anti-Ellen floodgates have officially opened. Ever since NikkieTutorials appeared on Ellen's show and claimed the daytime host wasn't all what she expected, the story started to come out. Of course, there was the backlash she received when it was revealed some of the staff on her show didn't know what was going on with their jobs due to the pandemic. Then she went viral for making what some called an insensitive joke, comparing her multi-million-dollar mansion to jail. Now her former bodyguard has decided he too wants to jump on the Ellen hate train and exposed her in an interview. We're gonna let you guys know all about it right now on I.O. What's poppin', you spuds? It's your boy Jared Bronstein, and today we're gonna be talking about Ellen again. My last Ellen video I was apparently too nice, so I'll make sure to really lay into her this time around. God, I hate Ellen so much. As always, stick around to the very end of this one for some common replies and bloopers, but for now, let's get into it, shall we? Tom Adjurak, who worked as a senior manager of operations for security imagery specialists for 10 years, told Fox in an interview that Ellen is cold. Not physically, although maybe after an iced drink, you know, it's possible. All kidding aside, guys, the former bodyguard told Fox News he had been assigned to protect Ellen and her wife Portia numerous times in the past. Following the recent allegations and knowing what he knows, Tom claims now felt like the best time to come out with his story. More specifically, Tom referred to the 2014 Oscars as an example of how Ellen can treat people. Speaking with Fox, Tom explained how he was selected to be the one responsible for protecting Ellen, Portia, and Ellen's mother throughout the night. He went on to say, I quote, "I'm holding their hands and walking them through individuals and large groups of people. Ellen is the one person that I've been assigned to, and I've been assigned to quite a few celebrities that has never taken the time to say hi to me," end quote. Now you may be thinking, how does someone not introduce themselves or at least say hi to someone? Well, according to Tom, he met Portia first, who was very pleasant and carried a conversation with him. Then Ellen came along, and here's what happened in Tom's own words. I quote, "It all started going negatively when she introduced me to Ellen, and Ellen pretty much just gave me a side glance out of her eye and didn't even say hello or thank you for protecting my mother, my wife, and me. It was very cold and it was very sly, and it was actually kind of demeaning in the way that she treats people other than those who are in her circle," end quote. Tom went even further, spilling all the tea by claiming that at the Governor's Ball, which is the official after party of the Oscars, only celebrities that were pre-approved by Ellen were allowed over to her table to speak with her. And in the interview, Tom said, I quote, "It's bugged me for years. I see this person come across as being very enlightened and positive and awesome, and everybody loves her and is in awe. And that's really not the case when you meet her in person. When you see her on TV, people fall in love with her, but it is a false facade and bravado." You start hearing these stories and I was like, man, there's got to be more to this. She's not the person she portrays to be, that she's playing off of society. That's my opinion. End quote. As you can imagine, Ellen nor her reps have yet to respond for comment. With that being said, before we just jump on the Ellen hate train, let's also consider some factors here, guys. For starters, Ellen was hosting the Oscars that day, so, you know, she was clearly on edge. Maybe she's anxious, nervous, who knows? Does it excuse her for being a cold, rude Carol Baskin? No. I hope you guys get the reference to that. There's just certain words I can't say on YouTube. So let me make it clear, I'm not defending Ellen's actions or defending her behavior in any way. Tom even mentioned that he understands she might have been in a weird headspace, all things considered, but it doesn't give you an excuse or right to treat people poorly. And he's 100% correct. But there's also the fact that there is a lot of news regarding Ellen right now, and maybe Tom, who left the company he used to work for last year, is just looking for some clout. I'm not saying the guy is lying, nor am I trying to defend Ellen. I'm just trying to keep this as unbiased as possible and look at all the angles. Considering how Tom doesn't work for the company anymore, and there's a current pandemic which is affecting people financially, maybe Tom saw this as his golden opportunity, either by exposing Ellen and getting his name out there, or maybe hoping he gets paid to do interviews with all these different outlets, looking for anything newsworthy aside from the pandemic. Maybe he just genuinely wanted to tell people the truth about Ellen and felt now would be the best time. I can't really say for sure, but considering how a handful of different people in different fields of work have come out to say negative things about Ellen, well, it's looking like she's got some serious PR work she has to do. Personally, I think Tom is telling the truth because really, how much could he get paid exposing Ellen like this? And other than that, why else would he expose her? If he still works security, especially for high-profile clients, exposing a former client, especially Ellen, would only hurt his business. So it seems he really didn't want the truth to come out and just felt now would be the best time. But I wanna know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Do you guys think Tom is jumping on the Ellen hate train, or is she finally being exposed for the kind of person she really is?
More than 5 million people now have a shiny new iPhone 5, and many more plan to buy one. But now that they have it in their hands, some buyers are complaining.
Welcome back to InformOverload. I'm your host, Johnny Rogers, and you're watching the #1 tea-spilling entertainment news show on the internet. In today's video, we'll be breaking down a recent report from a former associate producer at The Ellen Show that details just how privileged Ellen truly is. But first, if you happen to be new here and you don't want to miss another daily video, just tap that subscribe button to join our notification squad. Now, let's go spill some grease. When the pandemic happened and everyone went into lockdown, Ellen had a choice. She could have saved her staff and allowed them to work from home, but instead she bailed on them and hired an independent company instead. This clearly did not sit well with former staffers and thus unleashed a litany of complaints about the star. Not only that, but we had a full whole Twitter thread of just negative interactions in general with Ellen that led many to believe she's nowhere near as nice as she wants us to think. For example, the poor waitress who nearly lost her job after Ellen complained to management that her nail polish was chipped during service. And then on top of that, her comments about her $27 million home feeling like jail wasn't viewed as comical, but rather a flaunting of privilege in these uncertain times. Something that's both unnecessary and made people realize how truly out of touch celebrities are. Even a former bodyguard and security member who protected both Ellen and her family told Fox News, "It was very cold and it was very sly, and it was actually kind of demeaning in the way that she treats people other than those who are in her circle." To explain his quote further, this was the moment that he met Ellen, who did nothing but give him a side glance, not a hello, not nice to meet you, not thank you for putting your life in harm's way to protect me, nothing, just cold negativity. Now, it's easy to rip on Ellen because of how famous she is now, but it's important to remember where she came from. Ellen came from a place of working hard to establish herself in an industry that didn't want to accept her. When she came out as gay, her sitcom was canceled, and because of that, she always felt like an outsider. This feeling must still stick with her even though she's the ultimate insider now. Like, Ellen is worth $330 million, plus is friends with power players from the Obamas to Bill Gates to the Kardashians. So while it may seem like we should be cutting her some slack, it still doesn't excuse her actions and the clear indication that all that power, wealth, and fame has gone straight to her head. Case in point, this recent article detailing just how far her power reaches. Recently, a former associate producer on The Ellen Show confirmed to the New York Post just how much of a privileged bubble Ellen is living in. The associate apparently was called into Ellen's office because she had lost her glasses and therefore couldn't read a text message on her iPhone. According to the associate, Ellen stopped the search for her glasses and made one phone call. The producer goes on to say, "Next thing we know, we literally hear Apple CEO Steve Jobs pick up and say, 'Hi, Ellen.' Ellen told him the iPhone should have a bigger font. That's her. It's not that she's some demon. She just lives in an incredibly privileged bubble and is out of touch with the real world." Weird flex, but okay. Surprisingly enough, this is pretty much the first former staff member that is actually finding a way to cut her some slack while simultaneously throwing shade. The New York Post also interviewed executive producer Mary Connolly, who has been with the show since its inception. She said that she has never seen DeGeneres exhibit diva behavior. Connolly goes on to explain by saying, "Do the producers and her sometimes have to make unpopular decisions? Yes. Ellen is not afraid to tell you when she doesn't like something. She's had tough conversations with me. That's a function of everyday life. But the person I know is someone who comes in every day and wants to put on a fun show in a fun environment and help people." So maybe, just maybe, there is still some sliver of hope for Ellen out there, and honestly, we should ease up on her just a little bit. We're a little too critical of these celebrities. Like, as I said earlier, Ellen wasn't handed anything in her life. She literally worked for everything she has, and as such, she should be given a bit of a break when it comes to her behavior. I mean, the majority of people saying how mean she is probably wouldn't last an hour in her shoes, myself included, let alone a lifetime of being criticized from every angle in the entertainment industry. It's also important to note that her and Steve Jobs were friends, so why wouldn't she call him, even if it were something that was just trivial? That's the problem with this statement. It doesn't say what happened after she asked the question on the phone call. In the 2001 book called The Second Coming of Steve Jobs, the author recounts how Jobs phoned the president of the Bank of America to set up a new bank account. He writes, "Steve always believed in starting at the top, and with his extraordinary fame, he could start at the top. The head of the nation's largest bank was happy to see him, even ostensibly for the most comically trivial of matters, which they could have easily handled at the local suburban branch office." So maybe Ellen just wanted a reason to call Steve Jobs and she used that as an opportunity.
Like many others, Ellen DeGeneres took to Twitter over the weekend to call out racial injustice. But whether it was her wording or the fact that people really aren't having it with Ellen lately, she was mercilessly dragged on Twitter and forced to delete her tweet. I'm gonna tell you what she said and why people were angry about it right now on IO. Welcome back to InformOverload. We tell you what is trending on the internet. I'm Charlotte Dobre. Subscribe for a different take on the news and follow the IO team on social media. If you haven't already noticed already, we have posted a fundraiser on our channel. All proceeds will go to the NAACP. And if you don't have money to donate, if you just watch the video and watch the ads, then that's kind of like a donation. Everything helps, guys. I'll post a link to the video down below in the comments. Fans are calling Ellen DeGeneres a hypocrite after she tweeted the following message. "Like so many of you, I am angry and sad. People of color in this country have faced injustice for far too long. For things to change, things must change. We must commit ourselves to this change with conviction and love." But then Ellen subsequently deleted the tweet after receiving a ton of backlash. So what did people take issue with? Well, A lot. First, there were people who called out Ellen for being friends with George W. Bush. Ellen DeGeneres saying she's just as angry as sad as we are, when just a few months ago, she defended her friendship with a war criminal because she's friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs. That she has is really just the icing on the cake. With love, ain't you besties with a war criminal? Other people took issue with the fact that Ellen did not explicitly say black people in her post, and instead said people of color. What the movement is about right now is about Black Lives Matter. Of course, all people experience injustice, especially people of color, but that's not what the narrative is about right now. Not people of color. George Floyd was black. Why are you being so cautious? Serious? Say black people, Ellen. 1, it's black people. 2, it's not love if you just mean sweetly imploring oppressed people to stop damaging property. 3, donate more money. You're mates with war criminals. You forgot to say black people. Oh, and open your purse. At the end of the day, anyone can tweet that they're angry and sad, and they can post a black photo to their Instagram or repost memes to their story because maybe it's trendy right now or a good PR move. But what was Ellen doing to actually help the cause with this tweet? Not much, if this tweet was the extent of it. I still find it funny how Ellen DeGeneres, a woman who's famous for boastfully signing life-size checks to random people on her show, can't even post a screenshot on the internet of her donating money in support of Black lives. So Ellen deleted her tweet and appeared to have taken the criticism. She posted this one instead. I support the protesters who are exercising their rights and standing up against the horrible injustices that black people in America face every day. I'm making a donation to the George Floyd Memorial Fund, the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, and the ACLU in support of them, and I hope you will join me if you are able. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. I want you guys to know that this movement isn't just about reposting photos on social media and saying that you're sad and angry. That's the bare minimum that you can do. The movement is about looking within and calling out the people around you. Donate if you're able, sure, especially if you have the financial means to do so. But please take some time today over the next couple of days and really learn about what is happening and what's been happening for the last few hundred years. Have tea with your parents and talk to them about their views. Oftentimes it's the people who raise us that instill hate in our hearts. Talk to your children and teach them what is right so that the next generation doesn't have to do this. Talk to your friends who make racist comments and jokes, you know, those funny jokes that you're like, huh. Don't laugh at those jokes anymore. Call them out or stop associating with them. If no one is being complicit to racism anymore, it'll be harder and harder for racists to thrive.